Dom, I was absolutely buzzed by the end of it because of the way Sri Lanka were batting. We talked the last few weeks a lot about the selection of Hasni Pereira, the moving about of the kind of top order. Going into it, I kind of felt actually there's kind of only two or three. There's kind of four players in this team that make runs. One of them, Vishmi, is fairly inconsistent. Chamari coming into it is quite out of form in ODI cricket. And Kavisha and Harshita, maybe there was too much pressure on them. I kind of feel coming out of it, though, actually, they've added kind of two, maybe three more players who just feels a little bit more reliable about getting runs and helping us chase down bigger scores. Though there's a lot of question marks over Chamari's form, and I think now we could even discuss where she should be batting in the lineup as well, which I think are actually kind of all good questions to be having, and all the reservations that I may have expressed in the last few weeks about the management of the team and what they were doing with the batter lineup. I've got to retract because I've been proved yet again that I know absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I think to me, the biggest thing about the batting was the ability of these batters throughout the top seven to find the boundary in whatever way they could. I think a couple of things were really exciting. So seeing Nilakshi come on and play that first, big knock against India, she's put together a couple good runs, and she seems a very different player now. She seems like she's been given the role of your job is to inject some aggression and impetus into the innings. And she was hitting the ball down the ground beautifully. She was pulling the ball beautifully. It was really exciting to see because I think we've all known that she has a power game, but this is the first time we've really seen her put it together. And she worked really well in tandem with, say, a Harshita, right, who ticks on the singles, who runs hard, and was able to put on good partnerships with her. I thought Kavisha batted brilliantly. Her tempo to the innings is always really, really good. And I think Sri Lanka missed out a lot when she was ill for the last two matches. I think she would have been a difference maker, maybe not a 100-run difference maker against India, but someone who would have made that match a little bit closer. I think Hasani Pereira at the top, it seems like they found a good role for her. She's aggressive. She knows how to hit the ball. She was making use of the power play to strike boundaries. And I think Vishmi looked a bit scratchy at times, but she was able to fight her way through runs. I think the next stage for all these batters is, okay, you've gotten in, let's make the big one, right? We saw a lot of starts in, especially those last two matches they lost, but the inability of someone to kick on and make 100 was huge, right? That's where, Chamari in the past has done such a good job, is she's made those hundreds. But now you have multiple players getting into the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s. You got to kick on and make use of that. I think another thing that was exciting was seeing the Indian bowlers put under pressure. Their inventive shots. Someone like Harshita, right? She doesn't have the power down the ground that some of the other batters do, but she's able to use the angles really well to hit square of the wicket, to put different fielders under pressure, and it can be a real tax. So I think what Sri Lanka need to do is think, all right, we've harnessed players like Hassani and Nilakshi well. We know the role that, say, Harshita and Kavisha are going to play. We need to find out, okay, where does Chamari want to bat? We've had her bat at 3 and 4 the last two matches. And where does Vishmi fit in this? Because they've moved her up and down. She's batted again 2, 3, 4 here. So I think finding consistent spots for them, my opinion, and we talked about this off air, is that Chamari should be opening, right? Because I think her and Hasani Pereira have the ability to take the game away from the opposition in those early overs, because both of them can clear the inner ring of fielders and get big runs on the board. And then I think when you have Vishmi, Harshita, and Kavisha, they're all capable of working well with the field spread out. And then you have people like Nilakshi or Anushka Sanjeevani who can come up and add a little bit of power to that innings too.
Nick, I'll come to you on this. The conversation that we're having around this team is very quickly becoming. I'm gonna suggest kind of quite sophisticated in terms of cricket terms, right? Because it wasn't that long ago it kind of felt Chamari or bust, and then suddenly we had a couple of other players emerge, and now we're getting into actually we'll be able to chase down large totals, large scores without players having large knocks. This is all heading in the right direction for Sri Lanka, right?
Absolutely, Marky. It's not that long ago, or it doesn't feel like that long ago, that we were talking about Chamari plus 10 others. I think the conversation around this team has changed really dramatically in the past 12 months. And like, even during the course of this series, with the way that like Hassini Pereira, and Nilakshi batted. Like, I think it's strange to say for a player who's 35, but it felt like it was quite a breakout series for Nilakshi Silva, like showing things which I hadn't seen from her before. So I think this team's in a really, really good place going into the World Cup. I think that, as Dom said, like it's got to be the focus now. It's easier said than done, but has to be on building big scores, right? I think if you look at men's ODI cricket, like why Virat's been so good, it's the ability to score at 6 or 7 and over without taking a lot of risks through those first, through those middle, the 10 to 40, those mid 30 overs. And I mean, as well as the team batted throughout this tri-series, you look at the leading run scorers and only Harshita's in the top 10, right? And we didn't see an 80 plus score all series. We saw so many 30s, 40s, 50s. So going on to make those big scores, making it really difficult to dislodge you once you get in, I think is the next step. And I guess on the other side of things, finding a little bit more penetration with the ball. I mean, Doomy's a massive boost in terms of that. But I still think this team, maybe, I don't know if you guys agree, crying out for a bit of raw pace or a bit of wrist spin or something that can just kind of unlock things when partnerships are building and it seems like it's hard to break them down.
Esty, was there much conversation around the kind of bowling attack in and around the commentary box and the people you were talking to?
Yeah, it's been a topic of conversation for us a lot, right? About the wicket taking options that Sri Lanka have, and or the lack of wicket taking options, particularly in ODI cricket, where those middle overs are so important to restrict the side. So I think Deomi Vihanga's addition was massive for Sri Lanka, because she's the type of bowler, like a lot of people looking at her and saying, oh, she's like Chamari. She's a very different bowler, I think, from Chamari, the way she's flighting the ball and she's looking for wickets. And I think even, Karanavira's addition was for that very reason. So there seems to be a lot of thinking behind in the selections as well. Dom obviously spoke about Hassini coming in. Vihanga, I thought, added that little bit that they need in terms of an attacking option, someone who can take wickets and who's always looking to take wickets. Whereas, like, you have the Sugantika Kumaris, Chamari Athapaththu, Kavisha Dilhari, all trying to restrict the batter more often than not. And I thought even Malki Madara is more of a wicket-taking option than someone like Achinikula Surya, who is looking to hit the block hole all the time, not looking really is looking more to restrict. So they've tried to address some of the issues, but as Nick said, the pace option is one thing and a wrist spinner. I don't think there have been that many leg spinners in the Sri Lankan setup for a while. I think Rashmi Silva was one that they tried, but again, not someone who really spins the ball, but is more of that top spin kind of option, right? And Shashini Gimhan is another one who they tried for a while, wrist spinner, but she's very young. I think she's got plenty of time to break it into the side. So some areas that they've looked to address, but also, like, we look at this and we think, okay, if Sri Lanka conceded 316 and 340 something, but also you have to think about the fact that there were so many opportunities that went down, right? So that makes the bowlers look bad when actually they've created opportunities and they've just not been taken. So at the end of the day, that's fielding is the one thing you can control, right? It's the one thing that's in 100% in your hands. So that's been a long time thing that they need to fix.
Yeah, just to back up Estelle, I think one of the things that was so exciting about Doomy, and I mean this, so watching Sri Lankan spinners operate over the last 10 years, she, men or women, is one of the bowlers who really rips the ball. You can see, at least on the TV screen, and Estelle, you can tell us if you saw this live, you can see she's getting drift. You can see the amount of turns she's getting after the ball pitches. It was really great to see. The batters were clearly thrown off by that ability. I thought Inoka also worked really well in tandem with her because she's also trying to get wickets. And as Estelle brought up, Malky Madara has proven that that sort of debut she had in New Zealand wasn't just kind of a one-off. She's capable of taking wickets. Obviously, we're all hopeful that Udishka Prabodini will be ready for the World Cup. Right, the left arm angle is obviously tremendously useful. She's able to get swing in those early overs too. So I'm hopeful that she'll be able to come in and do her job in the side. Who she replaces, I think, is going to be a question. I'd imagine one of the sort of containing spinners will make way, right? Especially when you have Kavisha and Chamari who can actually, who can bowl. But the wickets, the fielding, I kind of was, as I was watching the South Africa game, I was taking notes of how many times, we let them off the hook, right? That South Africa scored 316 runs or whatever it was, but they really shouldn't have broken 200. They had so many chances to dismiss Dirksen, right? Whether through run out, through drops. They had a chance to dismiss Chloe Tryon as well. And it was these kind of mistakes that really harmed them. They were on top of the game, and that's where bad fielding can take you from 85 for 5 to 315, right? How they resolve that, obviously, I think part of it is having someone like Kavisha, who's a live wire in the field, will be helpful. I think that's where also the age, right? We have senior players, which is great in some circumstances, but it can be tough for them to field. It can be fielding off of one's own bowling was hard. We saw Inoshi Fernando drop a couple of those that were hit right back at her. So I hope, I don't know how much you can change in 5 or 6 months, but my hope is that at least the ground fielding will be better, and that they just, sort of, there's a little bit of luck with catching, right? Everyone practices it. Sometimes you drop them, sometimes you don't. So hopefully they'll have a good catching tournament when they show up next time.